Okay, good morning. This is session number 37 of Wandering Through the Big Book. And the title of this one is called Principles Before Personalities. And we're going to begin, as we always do, with our opening readings. Oh yeah, it's me first. Let's see. Opening words. Welcome to this session of Wandering Through the Big Book. This is not a meeting of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. There is no group conscience, no seventh tradition, no requirement for membership. Everyone is welcome. Our primary purpose is taking an in-depth look at the book Alcoholics Anonymous in order to deepen and strengthen our own recovery, to try to help others to do the same, and to try to become trusted servants of our fellowship. We are seeking conscious contact by trusting God, cleaning house, and helping others. And we're trying to improve that conscious contact every day by practicing steps 10, 11, and 12, and applying the spiritual principles we are learning to the details of our ordinary day-to-day lives. We will begin this gathering with a moment of silence to reflect on why we are here. And now we're going to do our readings. And Robin, you've got number 1.
Good morning, Robin Alcoholic. Number 1, I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through, and though perhaps you came to scoff, you will remain to pray. Page 0, right before page 1.
Thank you. And Amy, number 2.
Enthusiastic alcoholic. My name is Amy. No attitude of holier than thou, no fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. These are the conditions we have found most effective. Page 18. And be quick to see where religious people are right. Page 87.
Okay, and introduce yourselves any way you want, but do remember this shows up on YouTube. Christina, number 3. Whoops, you're muted. There you go.
I'm Christina. I'm an alcoholic.
Christina.
If you are seriously alcoholic as we were, have blot out our consciousness, how miserable you really are. Page 25. Or 2, to ask your Creator each morning in meditation to show you the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. Page 83.
Thanks, Christina. And Buck, number 4.
Good morning, I'm Buck, and I'm an alcoholic. Number 4, every day is day when we must carry the vision of God's will for us into all of our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. This is the proper use of the will, page 85. And
Jason, number 5.
Good morning, I'm Jason. I'm an alcoholic. Just to the extent that I humbly rely on God and do as I think God would have me do, will be enabled to experience spiritual serenity right in the midst of the human calamity. Page 68. Head in the clouds and feet firmly on the ground. Page 130.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And I'm gonna mute everybody now and mute all. Yes. I always appreciate you people showing up. It's just a wonderful thing for me to do, and I'm glad you're here. So we're gonna start today with, So my home group is the Camden 12-step group here in Camden, Maine. We meet every night of the week at 6:30, and all our meetings are open, and with the format changes every night of the week. Monday night we have beginners, Tuesday night as Bill sees it, Wednesday night it's in the book. I love that name of that group. We got it from another group. It's in the book. It doesn't say dummy, but it could. Thursday's Living Sober. Friday's a typical Friday night open speaker meeting. Saturday is 12 and 12, and Sunday is stories from the big book. So in the beginners meeting, the speaker, the share, is asked to share what they were like, what happened, and what they are like now from the vantage point of particularly the beginning and what helped or didn't help in the beginning. And it's kind of the short form. They only get 15, 20 minutes, where Friday night, it's the long form, you know, you can really dig in. And if I was to speak at that meeting, one of the first things I would try to say is the value of a morning reader. And as lucky for me, a person that I knew that was in the program almost immediately said, have you got one of these? And I said, no, where do I get one of these? And she got me one, and I started reading it. And I am amazed today. It's just like the big book. I mean, you can read them every year. I've been reading them every year for 12 years now, and they still speak. They're fresh. Important things, and the meditations come from an old Oxford group book, but the writer of this thing, his name was Richmond Walker. He was in the Boston area. They're better than it. Every time I read a good one and I go, wow, I want to read the original, and I find that his version is better than the original, which is and it doesn't matter, but it's a wonderful thing. And it didn't take too long before somebody gave me this one, which is Emmet Fox Around the Year. And Emmet Fox Around the Year, he didn't do it. After he died, his editors did it, and they pull from all of his 8 books. And again, it's just wonderful. He makes the scripture that we've heard since we were little bitty people. He makes it attractive, appealing. It just, you know, when he does it, somehow you go, yeah, right, wow. So Emmet Fox today, November 14th, did what they called it was a dependable recipe. And it comes from one of his books, this book, Emmet Fox, Find and Use Your Inner Power. And in this book, he called it the mixing bowl. But I was struck by it, and I know there are at least 2 people on this meeting that are part of a big book step study group called Original Recipe. So I thought, geez, this is the truth. So here's what this reading said. When you make a cake, you know that whatever you put into the mixing bowl will appear in the cake itself. And on the other hand, that unless a particular substance does go into the mixing bowl, it cannot appear in the finished article. Everyone realizes this clearly in connection with a material object like a cake, but people often fail to see that the same process applies equally in the realm of the mind. Such, however, is the case. The thoughts and beliefs that fill our minds ultimately appear in the cake of experience. And to realize this is to save oneself a lot of trouble. No one puts kerosene in the mixing bowl because no one wants it in the cake. For everyone knows that if it does enter the bowl, in the cake it will be. Keep mental kerosene and all other ill-tasting things like resentment, fear, and remorse out of your mental mixing bowl, and then your cake will be worth eating. So I just thought that was particularly appropriate for what we're going to talk about today. So just to set this up, I want to talk about tradition 1, tradition 2, and tradition 12 before we get going. So tradition 1 says, I'm pretty sure this is close, our common welfare should come first. And then it says, personal recovery depends upon AA unity. Didn't say is helped by. It said depends upon. So many people will say that's the goal, that's the primary purpose, to have unity in our AA groups, and that the rest of the traditions tell us how to do that. And the second one says there is only one ultimate authority, a loving God. That word's important. You know, it doesn't say a judgmental God. It says a loving God as it may express itself in our group conscience. And having attended a lot of business meetings and we read the traditions at the start of the meeting, I can tell you that I don't think I fully realize that that's the purpose of a business meeting, so that this loving creator can speak to the group through the group conscience. And I just think that's interesting. But the title of today's talk comes from the 12th tradition. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. So what I'm trying to talk about today is, well, what are these principles that I'm supposed to place before my personalities, and how do I go about that? And so I'll remind you that page 70, we don't read this. Oh, I don't have my page 70. It's the very beginning of chapter 6, Into Action, and it says we're trying to get a new attitude. We're trying to get a new relationship with our Creator, and we're trying to figure out what is in the way of that. So in other words, we're trying to place principles before personalities, but somehow it's difficult, and we need a way of working through this. And that's what brings you into this. The importance of that reading about the recipe for the cake is that's our 12 steps are the recipe. The real problem is lack of power, right? The real problem is that I can think I'd like to be resentment free. I can think I would like not to experience fear. I would think I'd like to get over my remorse around my selfish conduct, but I can't do it. I can't, in effect, just make the switch and do it. So, and then, you know, it says right after that in the book, well, that's the primary purpose of this book, is to give you a way to get a power into your life that will free you from resentment and fear and remorse. So, and just an aside, at some point, this Jesuit, well, the founder of the Jesuits, St. Ignatius, and his spiritual exercises, I hope one day to really do a synopsis of them, but it's probably going to show up in here. Okay, so last week we were talking about the enneagram, and I mean, we could talk about that thing for 3 or 4 sessions. It just has so much to say, and I thought I'd tell you a little personal story. I feel like I'm a textbook example of our textbook. It's like I made a 3rd step decision and started seeking a relationship with God, but I was not motivated by having a relationship with God. No way. I just didn't want to drink again. And I did hear people say, if you don't change, you will drink again. It's kind of inevitable. And I really didn't have any experience of a power greater than my mind and greater than my body until I was literally halfway through step 9. And I just it was like, oh, wow. Golly, there's no way I could have gotten myself to this moment, getting ready to see my ex-wife and make an amend, financial as well as psychological. And any rate, and I had a reason for, oh, and I feel like I'm a textbook example of the Enneagram. So this story takes place in the late 80s. I was living in Naples, Florida, and music has come in and out of my life 4 major times. I went to Bowdoin College and was part of a group there called the Monks, by the way. And then went to the University of Michigan and dropped out of school and was playing rock and roll in the Detroit area. And that group was named the Apostles of Soul, you dig? And we were a second billing band. So when the big groups would come through Detroit, we got to be, right there with them, sitting on the stage, watching them. Cream, Sly and the Family Stone, Jefferson Airplane, all the groups that were rolling about then. And Bob Seger was like us. He was not a big name yet. And there was a blues band called the Prime Movers, and the drummer in the blues band, whose name was Jim Osterberg, became Iggy Pop. It was just an amazing time. Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen. It was the MC5, Motor City 5. It was just a remarkable time. But that's not my point. So then fast forward, Naples, Florida, and the band was called Midlife Crisis, and we were professionals that were all playing music on the side. And so, and I'm a 1, and I was a certified public accountant. And that's just an obvious connection when you look at the types and then you look at their occupations. Just certain, like nurses are very typically 2s. Any healthcare worker or helper, person that makes helping others a major part of their life, will oftentimes wind up 2. And so one of the things that the Enneagram predicts, and this is something we didn't get a chance to go into, is it draws lines between the type and 2 other types. So if you're a 1, you're connected to type 7, and you're connected to type 4. Well, type 7 is the place of play. Type 7s are really good at enjoying themselves, which is something I have never been. I've never been able to enjoy myself. I've always been plagued by too much. I don't know what it's like. And my ex-wife was a 7. And so she could play, she could enjoy herself. And it drove me crazy because I'm living under the compunction that you don't get to enjoy yourself until you've done the work. You got to get everything perfect. Then you get to enjoy yourself. So I'm a certified public accountant, clear-cut rights and wrongs. And I get involved with this group, Midlife Crisis. And so then in the late 80s, I retire. I was a partner and I was able to sell my partnership interest, and I devoted myself to this band full time. Well, and I loved the blues, just loved the blues, and wrote a song called Oak Tree Blues. Wish I was an oak tree. I'd live 150 years. Wish I was an oak tree. I wouldn't have all these fears. Draw my food from the soil, drink from the sky, and they'll make me into furniture after I die. And somehow that felt good. And so at any rate, we would play in bars and stuff. So eventually, at one point, a client, if you're my type of professional, you call them clients. Other people call them patients. Some people call them customers. These were clients, and So he expresses some interest in, well, we're going to be playing at this bar. So he comes into the bar, and then at the break, he comes up and he says, I got to tell you, I'm having trouble. I don't get it. 5 months ago, I'm sitting across from you at a desk, and you're wearing a coat and tie, and we're talking important money and tax stuff, and here you are in this bar singing the blues. I can't figure. And at the time, I had no awareness of the Enneagram. But what the Enneagram predicts is that under pressure, I will go to 4. And I was under pressure in a number of areas. And the 4 is called the tragic romantic, sometimes the artist. It's got different names. But you know what 4s love to do? Sing the blues. Oh, woe is me. Oh, my life is so bad. Oh, loss and all of that stuff. And I didn't see this till a lot later, but the point I'm trying to get to, principles before personalities. So another way to say that would be primary purpose before the needs of my personality. And the Enneagram is just a wonderful way to get a picture, what do we call them, thumbnail sketch or something, of the personality and what primary purpose is it operating on. And the way I was trying to present it was, it's all about fear. And each of the Enneagram types is trying to solve its fear problem, however that fear problem shows up. And the hard part of it is that the types are normally not aware of the fear. They have an objective in mind. Mine was to be right, because I drew an equal sign between, if I'm right, I'll be okay. I'll be safe. This is the purpose of life, or whatever. And all the time I was running from my fear of feeling wrong. And you could trigger it, but my very own being, my human being, was the where this feeling would come. And I think I described it as the internal accusation that you are useless and stupid and you should have known better. That was the twist of the knife. You're useless and stupid is the dagger going into me, and you should have known better is the twisting of the knife, that I should have been able to figure this all out. So Alcoholics Anonymous in our steps has been a long go for me, and a challenge. But I think ultimately this challenge comes down to my ability or inability to place spiritual principle before my personality. So then the thing is, well, what's my spiritual principle? And because one's traffic in right and wrong, I've always been plagued by the step 5 question: what is the exact nature of your wrongs? I mean, I wish he could have left out exact, that get me off the hook a little bit. I could just get a general sense of wrong, but what is the exact nature of your wrongs? And the answer has changed, through the years. At the moment, the answer is, I think it's my life. The exact nature of my wrongs is, I think it's my life and I can do what I want. And what I've discovered through the grace and power of these steps is that my body's primary purpose is to survive. That's all it cares about, being here. And so it tries to handle whatever threats show up to being here in whatever way it can. And my mind helps with that. And my mind's primary purpose is simply to feel good, or at least feel better than I do. You know, I've been plagued by 4 questions all my life. How did I get here? What am I supposed to do here? What's going to happen when I die? And for crying out loud, why can't I feel better than I do? You know, I've felt awful most of my life, and it's why I mean, I'm on a roll today for, well, I know why, but but there's part of me that's waiting for the rain. It's like something's coming. It can't keep feeling this good, especially after 2 years of being absolutely powerless over my own internal misery, which is why I take that page 68 so seriously, that and we read it, that just to the extent that I humbly rely on my Creator and behave as I think my Creator wants me to behave, I'll get to experience serenity right in the midst of the human calamity, which also means, and I know I've probably said this 100 times, that if I am not experiencing serenity right here, right now, then what part of that formula, that recipe, am I not doing? It only has 2 major parts: humble reliance on my, I'm going to say spiritual nature. I could say soul, and action. That's what I'm supposed to do with my mind. And then the action is to behave as I think this spiritual reality wants me to behave. So if I'm not experiencing serenity, I'm either not humbly relying, I'm not trusting God, or I'm not behaving the way I think I want my God, my Creator wants me to behave. Now, why is that? Because I lack power. Because I lack power to be the person I think my Creator wants me to be. And then obviously the question is, where am I going to get the power? And I mentioned St. Ignatius before, and I got a long way to go. It's this thing, it's like a lot of spiritual documents. There've got to be 20 translations. You know, he was a Spaniard, and it's in Spanish. So, and then all the interpretations. And I'll remind you that Father Ed Dowling Bill considered him his spiritual advisor, and he was a Jesuit. So he had been through these spiritual exercises, because it's what they do before they get ordained. And Saint Ignatius said words to the effect, "Your primary purpose is to love, honor, and serve your Creator, and thereby save your soul." He said save. I prefer to think it's thereby do learn whatever it is your soul came here to learn. And I've done a bit of reading around the life of the soul, both in human bodies and not in human bodies, pretty far out stuff. But, you know, Bill got really pretty far out there toward the end of what he did. And so let's see, principles before personalities. Lack of power over my personality to not take me into resentment, which I found out in the 4th column is actually about fear. It's not about my anger toward the world is always the result of fear. But I have no idea. What I know is I'm wishing you ill will on the vague theory that somehow you're going to behave differently so that you don't have to experience my ill will. And then we'll both be happier and the world will be a better place. Resentment's a really good idea, really effective means of changing things, my mind tells me. So now I better look at my notes because I've lost my place. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay, good. Oh yeah. So talking about principles before personalities. What does step 10 say? It's on page 85 and it says pretty much every day is a day when we must, M-U-S-T, not a suggestion, doesn't say when we suggest, that when we must carry the vision of God's will into everything we do. Can you imagine? That's supposed to be the primary purpose of my life. And a couple of pages later, it says, as we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. Saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. That's what 10 and 11 are saying my primary purpose is. That's not what my personality says. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. This is the proper use of the human will. So the question becomes, do I have the power enough power over my personality to actually try to head in that direction in all the ways that our book tells us to head in that direction? So I just want to read some things from the book and comment on them, and then we'll be done for the day. What I was like, what happened, and what I am like now. What I was like was a type 1, wondering why I can't play and enjoy my life, and singing the blues at type 4. What happened? I came in here against my will, and I did your stupid steps, and I continue to have a gradual, but I have to say joyful, spiritual awakening. And I am so grateful. You know, I've been hard at work at life all my life. And after going through the 2 worst years of my life, 19 and 20, 21 has been the best year of my life. Every time I'm going, wow, this is my favorite New Year's Day of all time. And, you know, this is my favorite house of all time. You're my favorite wife of all time, you know, whatever. It's just like the whole year. It's been good. And I know why. It's because I'm paying attention and trying to do what our book says. So the first one I want to read is, what are we like now? Well, I want to be like this. This is on page 25, right before that miserable paragraph that says, you know, if you're a real alcoholic, you only get 2 choices. Just go on being miserable, trying to distract yourself from how miserable you are, and the other, accept spiritual help by doing these steps. Right before that, the great fact, you know, and that's a word they use on page 164, the great fact, which is the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, at least for me. The great fact is that if I do see to it that my relationship with God is right, I'm gonna have a great life. The great fact is just this and nothing less, that we have had deep and effective spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude toward life, toward our fellows, and toward God's universe. I don't have to be a one anymore. I don't have to be caught up in rights and wrongs. I don't have to have lack of perfection in the world or in the people that I interact with. It doesn't bother me the way it used to bother me. The central fact of my life today, I hope this doesn't sound pompous, and you'll tell me when we get to open discussion. Central fact of my life today is the absolute certainty, no doubt, that my Creator has entered into my heart and life, which is indeed miraculous. God has commenced to accomplish those things for me, which I could never do by myself. And 2 pages later, our good friend, Dr. Carl Jung, talking to Roland Hazard, who's terrified by the fact that Jung has just said to him, nope, in spite of your money and in spite of your effort, I have never seen one single alcoholic recover when they had an alcoholic mind like yours. He doesn't know about Silkworth and the allergy. He's working with the mind. And when Hazard goes, no exceptions, and Jung says, yep, exceptions to cases such as yours have been occurring since early times. Here and there, once in a while, alcoholics have had what are called vital spiritual experiences. They appear to be in the nature of huge emotional displacements and rearrangements. And I got to add gradually, if not suddenly, because that's the importance of the spiritual appendix, that don't use as an excuse that I haven't had my hot flash or white light experience, so I'm giving up. Huge emotional displacements and rearrangements, ideas, emotions, and attitudes, which were once the guiding forces of the lives of these men, are suddenly or gradually cast to one side, and a completely new set of conceptions and motives begin to dominate them. These would be altruistic motives. All the things that the striving for unity, trying to get sober, trying to recover our sanity, and eventually creeping up on serenity. In fact, I've been trying to produce some such emotional rearrangement within you. With many individuals, the methods which I employed are successful, but I've never been successful with an alcoholic of your description. Oh, I'm glad I wasn't Roland Hazard. Golly, you got no hope, bud. Of course, we didn't exist. The book didn't exist. The only thing that he had were the Oxford groups and their importance. Okay. I just got one more, then we'll be done. This starts on page 50, and that's in We Agnostics. And so he's talking about the personal stories, and you'll find a wide variation in the way each teller approaches and conceives of this power which is greater than himself. That's one of our greatest strengths. Nobody's going to tell you what kind of God you're supposed to believe in. Nobody's going to say there is only one way. And we're always focused on the truth of your experience, not the truth of my experience or anybody else's. Whether we agree with a particular approach seems to make little difference. Experience has taught us that these are matters about which, for our purpose, we need not be worried. They are questions for each individual to settle for himself or herself. You get to pick your own primary purpose and then ask your higher power to help you live up to it. On one proposition, however, these men and women are strikingly agreed. Every one of them has gained access to and believes in, I think I'd switch the order, believes in and has gained access to a power greater than whatever you consider yourself to be. For me, that's mind and body. I was trapped in the mind and body with no real feeling for the soul. This power has in each case accomplished the miraculous, the humanly impossible. Here are thousands of men and women, worldly indeed. That means they are not monks and nuns in cloistered monasteries or Zen Buddhist monks working on a koan or anything else. They flatly declare. That means they don't declare this with a, I don't know, flatly means I don't know what it means. Flatly declare that since they have come to believe in a power greater than themselves, to take a certain attitude toward that power and to do certain simple things. Now you all get your own answers to any of that. What attitude am I going to take? And what are these certain simple things I'm going to do? There has been a revolutionary change in their way of living and thinking. In the face of collapse and despair, in the face of the total failure of their human resources, they found that a new power, peace, happiness, and sense of direction flowed into them. This happened soon after they wholeheartedly met a few simple requirements. I would take out the word wholeheartedly for me. I don't think I was wholehearted. I'm sincere, but I don't think I was holding a lot back. I've been holding a lot back. Once confused and baffled by the seeming futility of existence, they show the underlying reasons why they were making heavy going of life. What are those underlying reasons? My resentments, my fears, and my sense of remorse around my selfish conduct, sexual and otherwise. Leaving aside the drink question, we do this sober. They tell why living was so unsatisfactory. They show how the change came over them, what I was like, what happened, and what I am like now. When many hundreds of people are able to say that the consciousness of the presence of God, by whatever name you call it, is today the most important fact of their lives, they present a powerful reason why one should have faith. Okay, principles before personalities. I think that's all I got. I'm gonna gong this gong, and Buck's gonna turn off the recording, and then we're gonna have some open discussion. So thank you very much for being here, and here we go.